We are being recorded. Hello to everyone joining us. Let's see
Yay
if we are live. And we are live. Wonderful. This is, and I need to mute myself here so I'm not in double places. Okay. This is our Extroverted Gens episode 8. I can't even believe that, reflecting back on the time that we've shared together, as Jen Pinson and I have been just discovering our mutual passion for learning, and not only learning about the world and others around us, but learning about ourselves and becoming more self-aware about our own personalities and our patterns and relationships and our biases and our areas of privilege and all of these things. There is so much to learn about ourselves as well. And today we are going to focus on honoring this time of year, which can be such a complex and nuanced time for many of us. And I want to just start too by acknowledging how pervasive Christian holidays are this time of year. And I need to give a shout out to my dear friend, Daniel Goldschmidt. It was a year ago that he and I were hanging out in a coffee shop chatting and talking. And after he left, I all of a sudden realized that there were Christmas carols playing and Christmas decorations everywhere. And I sent him a text and I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Just totally didn't even notice that. And again, it reminds me of that definition of privilege, are the things that we don't notice. Mm-hmm. And as someone who celebrates Christmas, I don't notice how pervasive that is this time of year. And I know for my friends who are Jewish or who are of other faiths and religions, I have some Buddhist friends as well. I have friends who celebrate a variety of holidays, and I have friends who don't celebrate, whose spirituality means something totally different to them. And so I do want to honor, as we dive into this conversation, that this time of year, these holidays can be pervasive. They can be really complex and nuanced, and they can be really tough. And so Jen and I just want to come at this today from this perspective of giving ourselves and others grace as we continue to do the very best that we can as we move forward.
Yeah, I know too. I'm just going to tell you guys that I'm at home today with a little e-learner. So you might be able to hear her in the background as she's kind of grunting from playing some game right now. She's doing some educational games. So that might be another part that kind of comes up, is that grace and stuff through, this time of year. If you're finding yourself going back to e-learning, as I know a lot of the schools in my area were in person and now going back into this e-learning space. And I talked to Jen right before this about some of the silver linings that I'm finding, but also some of the frustrations, and also, how I'm finding my harmony again, because is always constantly shifting and changing. And so now it's kind of juggling these balls of the holidays and juggling this ball of e-learning and this ball of keeping all of my employees employed and my business going and keeping myself sane and, kind of getting that self-care piece in there while doing all the things. And so I am sure there are many of you that are listening that are thinking, yeah, I'm doing all the things too right now. And so, really acknowledging the grace that comes along with that and the gratitude that comes with that, and, all of the other things that kind of come along with that. So, but yeah, like Jen said, we're on 8 episodes of this, and I feel like I have learned so much. I've learned so much about my own privilege in the last 8 months, and I've learned so much about, my own biases. And, I feel like I have leaned into a lot of learning and a lot of, sat in the discomfort a lot in the last few months. And I know I still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And know that this is a space that Jen and I appreciate, that we can do that and that we can share that journey with you all of being able to build up our resiliency for discomfort, of being able to sit in that space, to lean into the discomfort, and to really embrace, what I like to call that living in the and. And I shared over the Thanksgiving holidays over this past weeks here, just a post in the email that I sent out about living in that space of gratitude and, of being able to be grateful. It's one of my core values. Those of you who know me know it's something that I really have cultivated in my life, and being able to embrace at the same time that Thanksgiving and as a holiday, as well as our country and our profession are rooted in colonization and in harm to so many people. And like having to live in that complexity is so challenging. And I think the same is true this time of year for many of us, where holidays bring up a lot of emotions. And so for me to be able to live in this and of I'm grateful and I'm sad. I'm grateful and I'm angry. I know for me, not being able to share these holidays with family, it's the reason I moved from Arizona to Minnesota was to be able to close to my family. And so it's hard. I'm sad that I don't get to spend time with them. I'm angry that there are folks who are taking this pandemic lightly and are the reason that so many others are dying, and that I have friends who are really sick right now. And so I think being able to hold the complexity of those emotions in the midst of holidays, which are already complex for many people, and family relationships that are already really nuanced and complex can be hard. And in the spirit of giving ourselves grace today, you may also notice my very fancy glasses. I have the cool little blue glare flip shield going on here. Today, I have a migraine and thankfully have medicine that works, and I'm feeling mostly better, but I'm being really kind to my brain time. My brain has had a lot of screen time lately and let me know this morning that it was not doing okay with that. So wanted to honor this time and share this time with you all. And also I'm doing so in ways that I can. And again, also embracing the and of knowing that I'm in a very privileged situation to be able to take it easy this morning. Like I was telling Jen, I was thinking of her and I was thinking of my sisters with children, and me having a migraine, my husband can take care of himself. And my elderly boxer is not complaining about getting to spend more time in bed this morning. He was cool with that. And that is a place of privilege. I've been in that situation where I've had to make the choice of going to work with a migraine or calling in sick and not getting paid. And so I know that challenge, and I can't even imagine the challenges, for those of you who are parents and caring for other human beings in your households. And that adds another level of complexity as well.
It does. So Jen, I don't know, do you see us on Facebook? Because I am not seeing us on your Facebook. I don't know if something happened on that. So do you have?
I am seeing us still live.
Okay.
On my Facebook page, but I will double check that as well.
I'll close my app and then come back in.
To make sure. Living in the fun and of technology, right?
I closed my app and then re-came in. So let's see if that's, yeah, I don't see it. Not trying to take up.
That is, I don't know what to tell you. It's there. It's showing up on my personal page, and I did tag you in it too. So,
okay.
And if you're not seeing us live on Facebook, it didn't take. Thankfully, we're recording, and so this will be live on our YouTube channel. So YouTube playlist later. So if you're not catching us live, you can catch us on the recording.
So as you were talking about, the graceful times and stuff, it brought me back to a picture I saw on my Facebook from a year ago that one of my children was sick and I wasn't feeling well, and I was parenting my two kids. And I took a picture of one of my children eating cereal off the couch. No milk, thankfully, just dry cereal. And she was picking the marshmallows up off the couch as I'm sitting on my couch, sick, holding a sick child.
Oh.
And it was just like, I just don't care. It's like, you want to put cereal on the couch and eat the marshmallows? Fantastic. I'll clean it up later. And so it's the grace and possibly some frustration in that moment. And, in that moment of just being what my kids needed in that time. Mm-hmm. And so I know as we go through the holidays, we also, this is the time of year that more people begin to get sick. We, our bodies, it's a hard time of year. I have seasonal affective disorder sometimes too, where I typically experience more depression during this time and less energy. It's dark by 6 o'clock, and that's really hard. I'm not outdoors as much as I am in the summer and in the fall and spring. And so that's really hard. And I know sometimes I've had to go to a tanning bed just because I feel like I need vitamin D. And I don't really like tanning beds, but it's kind of this like, pick or choose your battles in that moment. And it's like, well, I'm not a tanner. I'm not somebody who goes to tanning bed all the time. But in those moments when I feel a vitamin D deficiency and even taking vitamin D, it's not the same. My body absorbs it very differently. Mm-hmm. it's like sometimes it's just energizing for me to go to a tanning bed and get some of that vitamin D. So not only, is it that hard time of, I felt it at Thanksgiving, not seeing my family, and but it's also those normal time of year things on top of a global pandemic and, e-learning with our children and that sort of thing. And so it's lots in sickness and stuff. So this is the time of year that we have to be even more grateful. And we've got, as extroverts, you and I, connecting with other people is very natural for us. Yeah. So, I have so many introverted friends that tell me that I make our friendship easier because I, connect, I make the plans and I do the things because that's part of my personality. I'm a planner. I like to hang out. I like to do things. So if you are somebody who's an extrovert that needing that connection, or even an introvert that needs that connection, now is the time of year to continue building those connections. And so throughout this, I got to share with Jen Jackbox over Thanksgiving. So not over Thanksgiving, but over conference. So that has been a big outlet for me. It has been an enormous outlet for me, playing Jackbox with friends, connecting with people on Zoom, connecting with your family. So, finding those ways to continue to connect through the holidays is going to be so important for our mental health, because this is, like I said, it's the time of year that I feel like more people see those depressive tendencies, and, it's a real thing.
Yeah. And I think it's important to clarify too, that, connection isn't just being in a Zoom meeting.
That's true.
It's creating those opportunities for meaningful connection, of being fully present with people, of not multitasking everything and thinking that'll work. And especially for those of us who are extroverts and we get our energy from those connections at a time of year when many of us are feeling less energized, it can be really important to create those moments. And I really appreciated, Jen, that you've reached out and created those game nights. I've been doing some of that creating too with some of my friends and family. And I'm grateful as always for my family's 3 times a week fam jams. I need those. And I've learned that those are times when I also need to be fully present with them, because it's different when I'm not. It's not the same sense of connection. And that's something that many of us are missing right now. And I want to give a shout out to a couple shout outs. One, to Rochelle Morgan for introducing me to the light therapy lamp that I use. That gives, I know, it's awesome. It gives me not only lighting for being on Zoom, but it gives me some of that vitamin D that I need this time of year. And then a shout out to Amy Standridge for introducing us to Dr. I think it's Ned Hallowell's use of connection as vitamin C, that it's something integral that we need. We were talking about this in our MT Mentor group. And Amy, if you're watching, I want you to know that I very carefully chose my mug for today. Yesterday in our peer supervision group, we were sharing just about those little sips of self-care. And one of ours that we were talking about are the mugs that we choose. And mine today is from my favorite patisserie in Sioux Falls that I go to with my family. Hi! Special guest on the Extroverted Gens. I love it.
Yeah. My daughter, Elizabeth.
Yeah. Hi, Elizabeth. And I also, when you were talking, Jen, and sharing that story of the couch, I also love that, because I think it is just so important for folks to know that we get to choose how we celebrate, if we celebrate this year. And that we get to decide what that looks like. And you know what? There was one Christmas where, for those of us who celebrate Christmas, my husband and I spent Christmas on the couch doing budget spreadsheets and coming up with our hopes and dreams for the future, because we just couldn't deal with the present anymore. We needed to plan ahead. And we actually, that was the year that we were done with Christmas early, and we literally were dragging our Christmas tree out to the curb as relatives were arriving at our neighbors' houses. And my husband was standing in our doorway, and as I came in, he's like, Christmas is over. I'm like, exactly. We are done with this. And you might be having a year where you're just like, I'm over this. I can't do this. This is not for me. I know for me, last year was a year filled with more grief, and I couldn't put ornaments up. My ornaments hold too much meaning for me. It's one of my favorite traditions, is to put each ornament up and remember the people and the places and the times of my life that they represent. And last year was filled with too much grief, and I just couldn't do it. And I never did. And that was okay. The world did not stop because we didn't have ornaments up, and then I did do a Christmas card last year, or I normally have done some sort of card. And last year I was just like, I can't do it. And so I also think it's just important that we give ourselves grace and permission that we get to choose which traditions we want to carry on this year, maybe which new traditions that we do. We get to choose how we celebrate or how we don't celebrate. We get to choose what that looks like for us. And we don't need to apologize. We don't need to try and make it look pretty for social media. You know, I think it's one of the reasons I debated wearing the blue glare glasses. And I'm like, no, this is reality. You know, it's not my best look, but it's the reality look. And so I think you giving ourselves, yeah, go for it, Jen. Dual blue glare glasses. Give yourself the grace to be real. Yeah.
I know. I feel like there's just so much on my head because I normally don't wear these headphones, and then I have the glasses, and so it just feels so much on my head that it's not even the look part. It's just so much touching my head. And it's kind of this like almost this like choosing my battle between, but my eyes are beginning to feel fatigued that I am going to go ahead and put them on, because for me it's I would rather be able to make it through the rest of the day that I'm going to put them on. So, but yeah, it's a lot.
Oh, I was thinking as we were talking about this holiday, and I was thinking back to other holidays that I've spent without my family, as I've lived in different parts of the country and made those decisions at different times of not to try and get quote unquote home for Christmas. And one of my favorite memories was actually the one of the years that I lived out in Pennsylvania. And my dear friend, Laura Murphy, Laura Malzone now, who's a music therapist out there, we were interns together at Allentown State Hospital way back when. And there was one year for Christmas that we both stayed in our little apartment that we had together, and we worked on Christmas. And I know that there's a lot of you out there who are working the holidays. And I will tell you, it was one of my favorite Christmas memories, though, because we actually dressed up like elves. I'm sure there's pictures somewhere. And we took our guitars and we went and visited all the folks who didn't have family on that day.
That's amazing.
And just did some of their favorite songs and spent time in the music with them. And still to this day, that's one of my favorite holiday memories, was actually working on a holiday, and still finding a way to make it special and meaningful. With what that meant for me and for her and for us at that time. And so also know that, again, this is that place of privilege where I know being able to take some time off around the holidays is a big sign of privilege. I've had a lot of years where I've worked holidays, and finding ways to honor that, finding ways to create traditions that aren't based on a specific day on a calendar. My family has gotten really flexible with how and when we celebrate. And I was telling my folks recently that I really appreciated that they've given us that permission throughout our lives, that, we didn't have to be at their house on a specific day. And that they gave us permission to create our own traditions, and that they welcome that. And that included me as a single woman. And I think for any of you out there who, aren't connected, and I'm married now, but when I was single, they honored me as a family. And it was me and my dog. We were a family, and we got to have our traditions, which, if my Aunt Judy is listening, involved often going up north and cutting down our own tree. And we had wonderful traditions just as this little family of me and my dog. And so I also want to honor that our families can look different. And sometimes there are people we're connected with by blood. Sometimes they're family that we choose to bring into our lives, and to just allow for the complexity of that as well.
I think too, like I love the fact that you've shared so many of your Christmas stories. And I feel like majority of my Christmases I have gotten to spend with family. Mm-hmm. I remember one year I was in a car driving to Florida on Christmas Day, because we decided to drive to Florida on Christmas Day for less traffic. And I've definitely traveled on Christmas Day before. So I do 100% agree with you that, it's just a day, it's just a number, and Christmas can be, you can celebrate Christmas in different ways. But I think one of the things to remember this year is that we're creating lifelong memories too, and that it's okay to have memories. Like, how many of us have a fond memory that we think back and we're like, oh my God, that was horrible during the time, but now you look back and you laugh. A story of cooking a pie with the plastic still on it. That's your story to share. But,
I will totally share that story. Yes.
Sometimes when things aren't the best, they're some of the best memories that we have, because they're the times that bring us closer to our family. They're the times that bring us more awareness of the people around us. And it's the time that bring us the most love and the most comfort, and the things that we don't even realize are happening in those moments. But then when we get a week from it, when we get a month from it, when we get a year from it, when we get 5 years from it, you look back and it's like, wow, that was really hard. And I said, but I said, and instead, I also got to connect with my family, and it gave me more time to focus on X, Y, and Z, or it gave me more time, or that's the year that, this happened or that happened. And so, right now we are creating lifelong memories. We're creating this space, and it's so, I mean, whatever your holiday looks like, whatever your Christmas looks like, know that, or whatever you're celebrating, know that you're creating that lifelong memory too. And it's hard sometimes to see that silver lining. Sometimes it's hard in the moment to see that, but just know that whatever is happening, one day you'll look back on it and hopefully it'll be a fond memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The pie that Jen was referring to was the very first pecan pie I ever made. And I used a store-bought crust and didn't realize there was an extra plastic sheet over the crust. And so I baked this beautiful looking pecan pie. And when I went to cut into it, realized there was a layer of plastic. And so I tried to pull it out, which then left, of course, the pecan pie a jumbled mess. And then I also realized that probably baking plastic releases toxins and might not be the best thing to feed to people I love. So that whole pie ended up having to go in the garbage. And I've had a lot of pecan pie stories over the years, but that one always makes me laugh. And at the time, of course, it was mortifying. And now it's one of my fond memories. And so, yeah, I think giving ourselves that grace, and I even look back on some of our wedding memories, and, we were getting calls for directions literally up to the moment that my husband and I walked down the aisle, because it was right after the bridge collapse here in Minneapolis. And it was back in the day when GPSs didn't adjust for that. And so nobody could figure out how to get anywhere. And they had just renamed some of the highways around us too, as they do here now and then. And so nobody, like our videographer, could not find the church. And so literally you can see halfway through the wedding, because we just set up a video camera focused on the front, and then halfway through the wedding, it starts to move. And you're like, oh, that's when he got there. So, at the time, giving directions to everyone and worrying about that was not our favorite thing. And now we laugh about it. And now it's one of the ways that we remember that time. And the same is true for holidays. There was one year that my husband and I spent Christmas in our pajamas on the couch watching every movie we wanted to. We did like the whole list of Christmas movies, and never got out of our pajamas the entire day. And it was delightful. It can look different for different. And if, as Jen said, and as I've said too, we understand that Christmas is really pervasive this time of year. And so if you don't celebrate Christmas, finding ways to avoid it or to create other memories and do other things that can honor this time and celebrate this time and enjoy this time. I was thinking, my friend Daniel, I mentioned earlier, has come up with what we believe might be the very first country Hanukkah song. And he's even shooting a video for it. So if you don't follow Daniel Goldschmidt on social media, I highly recommend it, so you can check out this song that he wrote, because it's awesome. And finding a way to have fun around it, and finding a way to create your own memories, and to create, again, meaningful connection this time of year. Is especially important, not just because of the holidays, but also, just as Jen was mentioning, because for those of us that live in places where it's winter, it's darker and it's colder, and it can be really, really hard to feel connected. And that is such an important thing. I go back to what I learned from Dr. Vivek Murthy, who was our former Surgeon General, and wrote a book about loneliness, and talked about how it is an essential survival need to be connected with people. Mm-hmm. And that loneliness is our body's way of letting us know, it's like hunger or thirst. When we're lonely, it's our body's way of letting us know that we need to connect with others, and that it's okay for a moment. And one of the things that I love about this holiday season is that it's a space that can hold the loneliness along with the connection. And it's not a bad thing to feel that for a little bit. And it's just like with chronic stress, right? Our body is not healthy when we have to sustain it for a long period of time. So we need to create those opportunities for meaningful connection, which is part of why Jen and I love doing this, quite frankly. If nobody even ever listened to these, Jen and I would still enjoy them together. So
so true. It's so true. We always talk about how Jen and I, so we both love positive affirmations too. And so we're very affirming to each other. And I feel like we learn a lot from each other in general. And so these conversations are great. And it's great for our extrovertedness to have this connection in this time when we're just so present with each other and we're present with anyone who's joining us. And it's just, we're just trying to do the best we can to share, the things that we've learned along the way. And we love learning from you guys too, and love hearing what you need from us in terms of these conversations as well. So if I could give you guys a couple, things, and these are things I have to remind myself too. Remember, on social media, most people are putting their positive reels. I'm guilty of it. Other people are guilty of it. Sometimes it's really hard to be vulnerable. Sometimes it's really hard to post the hardships on Facebook. And sometimes it can be very helpful to do that. And so I try to every once in a while post the realness of, how hard things are and, coming from a place of vulnerability. But, in that comparing yourself to other people, know that everybody has struggles and we're all going through something, or at least most everybody is going through something. And realize that we're kind of all in this together. The holidays are hard. And like Jen had mentioned, there are still people getting together for, various reasons and stuff. And that's hard when we're choosing to stay home with our families. And it's really difficult to see. And so just try to give yourself as much grace, unplug from social media if that's something that's helpful for you. But also if you are seeing those things that you realize too, how to kind of compartmentalize some of those things so that way it's not bogging you down too much. And so I think we're all guilty of the doom scrolling, or most of us are guilty of the doom scrolling. I'm really guilty of it. So, just trying to give yourself that space and that time, and also realizing that we're all in this together, and, we're all guilty, me included, of posting the highlights of our lives.
Yeah. And we know that it's this balance, right? Because what we water grows. And so sometimes focusing on the positive can be really helpful and can be a way of affirming that for us. And we want to be able to hold reality with that too. And so I think that's the piece where, give yourself grace, give yourself space if you need it, create time for yourself if you can. Again, I know that's a privilege for some, and pay attention to what energizes you and what takes away your energy. I think that's so important. And I know there was some advice on Twitter that I really appreciated of, noticing how much time you spend doom scrolling and then doing something for that same amount of time that is life affirming and energizing for you. I love that suggestion. I also want to put in the comments here, the link for Jen's Career Driven Mom Facebook page. And I think if there's any parents out there who are struggling this time of year, that can be a really important place for support. I know I really appreciate that community that you are creating there, Jen. And then I will also put there the links for my MT Mentor group. So if there are music therapy students or professionals who are struggling this time of year, I know that I've really appreciated our MT Mentor group. We even had just a quick check-in on the night of Thanksgiving because that holiday was hard for a lot of people. And so we did a spontaneous, let's get together and just check in with each other this evening. And it was really helpful. And we laughed a lot. It was actually just kind of an exhale. As we talk about, sometimes we have all these times in our lives that are inhales where we feel like we're just making it through. And then we need those moments to exhale. And we laughed a ton. And it was really, really helpful. And so know that both Jen and I have intentionally created some spaces that we can help support others and connect with others. And that can be really important. So I will just leave those out there. I will also mention for the MT Mentor group that I do have a special right now through the end of the year for professionals. So a little discounted rate if you choose to pay for an annual membership. You get 2 months for free. So a little deal there for professionals. And then I always have special pricing for students, interns, and for both students, interns, and professionals from historically minoritized communities. So you can check those out if you're in the music therapy world and need a little extra support. Oh, Jen, I did send you directly the link for the post too. So hopefully that'll help you to be able to access it and share it on your page when we're done here. Anything else you want to add as we finish up?
I think that's good. I think everything I just said before too. And I just really appreciate this time and space. And for those of you joining Career Driven Mom, I know I've kind of taken a little bit of the backseat. It's been much harder keeping everything really consistent with e-learning and everything. And so as you just heard, Mommy, look, it's hard to even make it through a half hour of time. And so I can't wait to grow that even more. And I appreciate just all the support. So
yeah. Thank you, Jen. And that's part of keeping it real, right? Like that. I think that that's for both of us, living in that space of we're doing the best we can too. And in the midst of a global pandemic, as we like to say in our group and in MT Insider as well, we'll often, end our sentences with that, right? I'm not able to focus for a full half hour and give that much time in the midst of a global pandemic. And then you can also add, well, e-learning with my children at home and trying to run a business and, like, so all the things, right? So give yourself grace today that we're all doing the best that we can. And know that Jen and I are here to support you if there are ways that we can do that. And that we also are finding ways to support ourselves and each other too, because that is just so important to create these opportunities to connect. And Jen, as always, it's such a joy. And I'm just so grateful for the time with you and for the opportunity to learn alongside you and with you and from you during this time together.
Same. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And we'll see you in 2021.
Woohoo. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.